Hey there, and welcome to another week of the Ben McGreevy Sports Podcast. This week, we're keeping it pretty simple. Heath, Greene, and Cole Porter join me, and we talk about the struggling St. Louis Blues and the struggling Vancouver Canucks. We have pretty different theories on both of these teams because both of them have good rosters. So what's making them bad? We explore that in today's episode. We also end the show by talking about some of our sweetheart teams that we are loving watching this year. So let's get right into today's edition of the Ben McGreevy Sports Podcast. Alrighty, we are going to get straight into this today. Today we are just going to be walking through two bad teams that we have not spent a lot of time talking about this year. And honestly, one of them, since it's a Canadian market, is getting a lot of media attention right now. No one really knows what they are going to do. The other one is getting kind of talked about, but are going under the radar with one of the worst starts to the season when they definitely should have been one of the better teams this year. Boys, let's get right into the St. Louis Blues because I think that they need some attention. I think we need to talk about them a little bit because, whoa, I don't know that any of us saw this start coming for the Blues. Let's just open it up to the group right now. What do you guys think about the Blues in their start to the season?
Yeah, I think it's just shocking at how bad they actually look. I was not expecting the St. Louis Blues to come out. I mean, they've lost 7 in a row now, I think. Since the first time since I think it's 2005, 2006. They've done that. I mean, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, looking at just scrolling through their stats for the season, I mean, all but 3 players on their team have a negative plus minus, including Ryan O'Reilly having a minus 12 plus minus, Jordan Kyrou with a minus 15, Braden Shen minus 8. That's incredible. We haven't even gotten to goaltending yet, but it is definitely not a hot start for the Blues.
Not at all, and it's very interesting because you guys just mentioned some names that have not started well. There are also some things for the Blues like their home record is 1-4-0. They're a little bit better on the road, but we are seeing the St. Louis Blues do something like they are at a bad Sharks team level. They're at a bad Anaheim team's level. They're at a bad Vancouver, we'll get to them in a minute, level, but they just have a bunch of players who aren't doing anything. And I think this is where it gets very weird. Like, for example, let's talk Jordan Kyrou for just a minute. Jordan Kyrou has a big contract, right? So Kyrou gets the big contract and then goes into this season and has, in 10 games, has 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 points. He's minus 15 on the year. What do you guys think about how Kyrou has performed? Also, I loved how you guys brought up Ryan O'Reilly having a bad plus minus because his thing is he's a good 2-way center, right? That's
Right.
So the fact that he is this bad all around, what do you think is the issue in St. Louis right now?
Go ahead, Heath.
I just think they just can't get out of this rut they're in. I mean, I think I texted y'all earlier this morning. I don't remember if it was yesterday or today, but they're being outscored in the last 7 games, 33-11. But yeah, I mean, you got players that have signed contracts that just are not producing anymore, and it just seems like they just can't wiggle their way out of this awful rut that they're in currently.
That's kind of what I was feeding off of. Is there's a lot of big contracts. Robert Thomas has the same contract that Jordan Kyrou has at $8.125 million starting next year, and it's not even that it's a single player problem. This whole team is just underperforming as a whole. I mean, look at Jordan Bennington. He averages, his GAA is 337 and his save percentage is an 886. That's horrible.
Yeah.
You think they're regretting trading Huso right now?
Oh,
Or letting him walk. I'm sorry. It is how I'm saying. Cole, you brought up that Kyrou and Thomas have the same contract extension. How wild is it? If you're a Blues fan, you're watching Jordan Kyrou do what he's doing, and he hasn't even had his extension kick in yet. Like
Crazy.
he's still a $2.8 million player this year. Next year, he jumps to 8.125. Heath, you and I actually talked about Jordan Kyrou last week on the show when we were talking about, like, hey, who could trade for Mitch Marner, which, by the way, the Leafs have since then picked it up.
yeah.
I think, they're currently, we're recording this on Tuesday night, so the Leafs are currently playing in a game against Vegas, and the Leafs are winning. Like Vegas is good, and the Leafs are beating them. The Leafs have won, like, I think 3 in a row or something like that since we trashed them on the podcast. So we are the reason for that. But we talked about, I remember last week we said, man, it's kind of weird. They gave Kyrou a lot of money for a guy who has 1 year of performance. I mean, he had 35 points in 2021. He had 75 points in 21-22. And then he got his big deal. I mean, we're talking, is he one of the most overpaid players in the league? I don't know, but it's just kind of a mixture of all of it. Is Berube done in St. Louis? When are they making changes here?
I
I,
haven't. I don't even know. I
I
don't know
don't
if you
either.
can label Kyrie yet as that bad.
He's
And
got 3 goals and 1 assist, and he's a minus 12.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
It's
If
going to
you're
be interesting. I think something has to change. Like I said earlier, it's the whole team is just underperforming. I don't know if that's a coaching thing. I don't know if that's them scheming up how they're playing. If it's just a basic skill level, we need to go back to the basics and learn how to pass the puck, shoot the puck kind of deal. I don't know. But I wouldn't wait around too long to make a decision if I was in the management role in St. Louis.
I was listening to the Merrick show with Jeff Merrick today, and he has Elliot Friedman on every single day for the first part of his hour. And they were talking about this question as well. Where do the Blues go from here? And Merrick said, hey, they've got to make changes. Like what's the next step? When do they start making changes? And Elliot, almost in an exhausted voice, said, I think they're trying. Like, almost like the Blues are trying to make changes. But, like, right now, who wants to take on a bad contract? Who wants to, who wants to go get Braden Shin, who has a bunch of years left on his deal at $6.5 million, but he's a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
At what point do you sit there and say, okay, for the Blues to make big changes, they just maybe don't have the pieces? And that's an interesting thought process as well.
Hey, credit to
yeah,
Shin. He's leading in points. Look at the positives.
the
Maybe the one guy they could move.
Yeah.
I think they've kind of too this. I wanted to say this earlier, but long story short, something weird happened to my headphones and it started playing random music. So that's why I kind of looked weird for a second about a minute ago. But anyway, um, I feel like they've kind of gotten out of their style of play and their identity that you kind of know the Blues are as a gritty hockey team and a team that hits a lot, but they use that to their advantage and they find ways to win. They put a lot of shots on net and they use their defense and have good goaltending. And really, I hate to say it, the only person on their team so far that looks like they want to actually do something and would be willing to hit somebody at the moment looks like Jordan Bennington, because every other night I see a YouTube footage of him trying to get into it with somebody. And I don't know if he's just trying to spark the team or what, but I mean, it's like they've just lost that, kind of gritty identity that we're used to seeing out of the Blues that I know a lot of us don't like, but that's what has made the Blues so good the last few years. And under Berube, I don't know what's happened to it, but they've definitely fallen off. in the last, really the entire season outside the first 4 games or so.
You know, the last time they started this bad,
Yeah.
they won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I don't think this team is the same.
No.
They have the key pieces that are the same, but I don't think it's the same. You know, you're not going to, unless they make a coaching change and go hire a guy who's going to do the same thing Berube did when he came in. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing for the Blues. I don't feel bad for them at all because I just, you know, I enjoy watching St. Louis lose. I won't lie. It is a sick little thing in my heart where I love watching the Blues lose games. But I will say that there's something crazy happening there, and their roster is really too good to be as bad as they are. I mean, even their defensemen are solid throughout.
I mean, can we admire the fact that this almost takes talent, that they're basically averaging 2 goals a game?
It's pretty incredible.
I mean, that's pretty bad.
That's
I mean,
like
it's 2.20, but essentially 2. Last in the league.
Record break. I mean, that's so bad. Hey, just for those of you who don't care, but for the three of us, Toronto Vegas just tied it. So
yeah,
that seems like an
love
exciting
that.
game.
Go Knights.
In the recording here and go watch that game. All right. Let's move on now to the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks have not been good. As a matter of fact, Jim Rutherford last night took shots at Bruce Boudreau, or I'm sorry, Sunday night took shots at Boudreau, pretty much saying that it's his fault. But here's the thing. The Canucks are already paying one coach that they fired. Do they really want to be paying 2 coaches to coach from their couches? I don't know what's going on in Vancouver here, but I do want to know what you guys think about what's happening in Vancouver. They're not the last in the Pacific, but they are notably outside of what would look like a playoff spot. And the way they are trending, it does not look like they even have a shot at making the playoffs. As a matter of fact, they are, even though they're only 3 points out of a spot, which is not as many as you would think, there's still a shot. You know, Nashville is shockingly 1 point out of a playoff spot, and Nashville's looked atrocious this year. If Nashville wins tonight, there's a chance they're in a playoff spot. That's wild.
I mean, credit to their division, though. The Pacific Division as a whole, everybody above the Canucks is playing well. You got the Flames, the Oilers, the Kings, the Kraken out of nowhere are up there at the top with the Golden Knights. So it is kind of crazy. They're low on the totem pole as far as standings go, but I mean, that division's off to a hot start.
Yeah, it is off to a hot start. You know, Calgary has not looked good in their recent games. Recently, they've been bad. Last night they blew a 3-1 lead to the Islanders. You know, they've struggled recently, and I haven't even looked at. They're tied with the Devils with 9 minutes left in their game tonight, and the Devils lost their starting goalie in a major piece. Which, by the way, we're going to talk about the Devils at some point in this podcast in the future because the Devils are fun this year. They're good. They're fun. Anyways, they're leading the Metro Division right now. Who saw that coming? Not us, that's for sure. But you're right. Vegas has been incredible. They are 8-2-0 in their last 10. They've won 7 in a row. They are solid in Vegas. The Seattle's on a 4-game win streak. Seattle, by the way, looks like they could do something in the playoffs this year. It's like they needed the 1-year buffer. They're looking good. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that the Pacific Division, though, has an impact on this. I would love to hear, Heath, what do you think about the Canucks right now from your perspective?
Yeah, the Canucks, you know, go back, you look at their 12 games they've played. Out of 12 games, 6 of they've blown at least 2-goal leads. Or I should rephrase that, a lead in a hockey game in 6 of their 12 games to
Sounds
lose.
familiar.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Their defense, really, it's weird too. The Vancouver Canucks, on paper here, they don't look bad and I say don't look bad. Their stats, at least goals for, is actually pretty good. I think they're averaging about 3.5 goals a game, but they're averaging almost 4.5 goals allowed, which then you have to go look into, is that a defense problem or is it a goaltending problem? And I really think it's a goaltending problem because Demko is not playing well at all.
I was going to mention that too. With his 3.90 GAA and his 8.9 save percentage, he's not doing well.
The goals he's letting in, granted, every once in a while, it's a bad defensive breakdown, similar to the Predators, where they're just bad turnovers and things like that. But there were a few goals the other night I was watching. I think it was against the Islanders. I think they beat them like 8-5. Just bad goals. I mean, just 5-hole goals, stuff that bounces over the pad. Things that you have to have as an NHL goalie that he's just not getting. And I think at that point, if you're scoring 3.5 goals a game, you should have a pretty good chance to win, especially when you're not allowing. I think Nashville only had 30 shots the other night, I think, yeah, and Vancouver had 45. Typically, Vancouver's on the higher end of the shot side when they play, and it's just, I think it's a lot of their goaltending right now.
Yeah, and their offense, like you mentioned, their offense is scoring. Bo Horvat in 12 games has 10 goals and 4 assists. Pedersen has 10 assists, 5 goals. JT Miller's up there. You're right. Their offense is scoring, but kind of like how Nashville started out, defense is not where it needs to be. And goaltending is part of that. I think it is with Nashville too, that the goaltending isn't all the way there. And I think Vancouver is just kind of in a similar situation.
Yeah, their penalty kill is not good either. I believe they're 60% currently.
How's their power play? Do we know?
It's not bad. I can tell you it is decent. They are sitting at third, 30%.
Wow. Okay.
I will tell you something that's interesting. The Vancouver Canucks are 12th in goals for.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They're not getting stops. And there's a saying in the hot NHL world that a bad goalie can quickly get a coach fired. This might be the situation in Vancouver. And obviously, Thatcher Demko is normally solid. I don't know what's happening with him right now, but you sit there and you look, the teams ahead of the Vancouver Canucks in goals for: Boston, Edmonton, Buffalo, which that one's still funny to me, that they're a playoff team. The Los Angeles Kings, Vegas, Dallas, Seattle, New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, Florida Panthers, Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the Canucks.
They're up there with those teams.
Some of the best teams below them: Tampa Bay, Colorado, Carolina, Toronto, the Rangers, Minnesota. Guys, can you believe it? They're worse than the Nashville Predators, or they're better than the Nashville Predators. That's not shocking. But we sit there and look at that. Is it a Boudreau problem? Is it the way the team play? If they're playing lazy, Demko doesn't have a shot. But you said he's letting in weak goals. You're the goalie here.
Yeah, they're just. And you gotta look at it too on both sides of the. Is it a goalie? Is it a defenseman issue? Every once in a while, they let some really weird turnovers in the defensive zone or offensive zone. When it comes to 2-on-1 or a shot from the slot and a high danger scoring chance, and they put it home. But when he's getting a shot from the blue line and he can see it all the way, he's got a good lane, and he just flat out misses it. It's just not good at all.
So if you're the coach, how are you trying to save your job right now if you're the head coach of Vancouver? What moves are you making?
You can't even play the backup because Martin, I think his last name is Martin. Yeah,
Spencer Martin.
He played the Islanders, and I believe he played the Islanders the other night and gave up a pretty soft goal. But they're not getting goaltending out of either of them. They're both in the 8.99s, or maybe a 9.18 so far for Spencer Martin. So it's not bad, but I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at a couple things here,
I will
but
say
it's not
this.
good.
It's not good. The Vancouver Canucks right now are winning over over the Ottawa Senators with 1:23 left in the game. I will say this: that is not Thatcher Demko in net. So they've let in 4 goals, but it hasn't been Demko. But they're having to score a bunch to win a game like that, which is very interesting to me in that sense. Cole, to answer your question on if I'm the coach, I think I think their roster's pretty solid. I mean, when you think about the roster for the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, you're looking at a team that when you walk down through who they are, you have guys like Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Connor Garland, Tanner Pearson, Ilya Mikheyev. Like you're looking at defensive Quinn Hughes, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Tyler Myers, Ethan Bear. Like
You got the names.
Their roster's good.
Like those are the names of people who have been in the NHL All-Star games. I mean, those guys have been there. They're good players. They're just not getting the stops they need on defense.
I think, and I'll tell you this: Brucey Boudreau, he's one of the greatest guys in the NHL to just watch coaching wise. I don't think he's the issue here. I just wonder if it's they're not getting goaltending, and if they got goaltending, they would start winning some games situation.
Yeah, I think it's a goaltending issue because once your goaltending falls off, I mean, you've got to you almost have to the team has to play with a different skill set. I mean,
the one concerning thing is that they're blowing leads in most games.
Yeah, and that's I mean, it's not like some are 2-goal leads, some are 1-goal leads, but even heck, some of them are 4-goal leads. I mean,
if they have a lead, they're blowing it. I'm like really watching the score closely right now.
It was 6-4 last I saw.
6-4 with 40.
Yeah.
So they just won.
And the Senators have lost 6 straight now.
Unless
is that right?
Something crazy happens, they're going to beat the Ottawa Senators. And yeah, the Senators have been bad this year, way worse than they should have been. They've lost 6 in a row now. But to sit there and say, hey, you know what? What is the solution here for the good old Vancouver Canucks? We're not ones to talk, but like maybe get their heads on straight and win a game or two and get some confidence, and they'll be fine.
Yeah,
and a little bit of defense.
That's one of those hard things too as a goalie. I mean, it's so hard to come out of those 7, 9, 8, 9, 10 game ruts that you just can't. You can't stop anything.
That's why I'm sort of comfortable with Nashville right now because we've seen Saros have dry starts to seasons in the past. So I know it's not all of his fault. Our defense has not been stellar in front of him. But we've seen him have soft starts to the season. So I'm not too concerned yet with Nashville as far as that goes. Also, my Coyotes are beating Buffalo, so that's good.
Hey, Cole, you just brought up a great point that I had not even thought about this year. Saros always starts out poorly.
Except last year. Last year is the first year that guy has not started poorly. And I even said it before the season last year. I was like, we already know he's going to come out and flop 6 or 7 games. And he didn't. And I was like, wow, okay, this guy. This is it. He's our future. We'll put a statue right next to Pekka when he's done here. And then this year it's like, yep, same Saros. We're going to go probably 10 games with him and just kind of flop around before he gets his head on. But, yeah.
Everything comes back to Nashville, by the way.
It does.
That's what Saros, even when he first came here, that's how he was. Also, real quick, the Vegas Golden Knights just won in overtime.
Oh, I saw that.
Hey, that's
rolling.
Frustrating for Toronto, but I will say this. That's not a super frustrating loss. That's 2 good teams just going at each other. All right. As we end, let's say this. Every year there's one team that I like, 1 or 2 teams that I'm like, I'm interested in them. I'm going to watch their games. And for some reason, I just am attracted to their games. If they're playing, I'm kind of just going to turn them on. I'm interested. Do you guys have that team each year? And if so, who is it for you this year?
Yeah, so I know with me, in the past few years, it's just been Arizona. And a lot of that started just when we started going there to watch games because it's such a fun environment. RIP, Glendale. We're never going to get that experience again. But this year, when I have stayed up, it's been the LA Kings. That's a fun team to watch. They're not necessarily the best, but I love watching that game, especially with a few former Preds on it, Arvidsson and Fiala. It's a fun team to watch. So they've kind of been on my radar this year.
And we got the Kings jersey.
We do
tonight, which is kind of exciting. Heath, what about you? What's the team that you've been watching this year?
I still really like them. I get attracted back towards the New York Rangers again for the second year in a row.
Hey,
mostly for Shesterkin there, but
they're in a tight one right now with the Islanders.
It's
so weird to record while games are going on. I don't know that if we've done this before to the extent at which it's happening tonight, which is pretty wild. For me, and I mentioned them off the top, I've been turning on the New Jersey Devils a lot. That team, guys, watch a Devils game here and there. They are fun to watch this year. And like, they're very likable all around as a team. Hischier and Hughes are just so, every time they touch the puck, it's like, what are they going to do next? And that is a super entertaining thing. They have Dougie Hamilton, who's a solid player. And also, this makes total sense. It's hard to not watch the Edmonton Oilers right now.
They're hot.
What McDavid and Draisaitl can do is just ridiculous.
It is. And it's destroying my fantasy this week too.
I was about to say, it's me as well. I'm playing the guy with Leon Draisaitl, and it's not fair. They're both cheat codes. They do what they want. It's ridiculous. So those are our darlings for who we're watching this year. All right, guys, any final words on this week of the NHL? I know we're going to have the Preds play Seattle tonight. And obviously we're not going to get to report on that in this podcast. But we'll talk about the Preds more next week. That are pretty good. I guess we could have talked about since we last recorded, they've done really well. Since we recorded last, I guess on this, as we close out, Heath and I talked about last week, like fire everyone, destroy the team, break everything up. And since we had that conversation, and I believe, Heath, we had that conversation. Was that right after they had gotten blown out by the Oilers or something like that?
I think it was right after. It may have been the day after they.
The day after, or maybe the day before, whatever
maybe
it
was before, but
they got destroyed. And then they went and destroyed Calgary and came back on a 3-goal deficit to Vancouver. So 2 games in a row, they've looked pretty good. They go to Seattle tonight, who's hot. We'll see what they do. If they keep winning, maybe we got bet up for nothing. That would be interesting. All right. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Don't think so. Let's hope for a few more Preds wins. We got to get off this losing train, get a good streak going in the right direction.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for being here today.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you so much again for joining us today on today's podcast. If you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and if you're on podcast listening network, hit that follow or subscribe button and leave us a review. Tell us what you think. Leave a comment below what you want us to talk about in the next podcast. I love knowing what you want to talk about so we can talk about things that you want to hear. If you enjoyed today's show and don't mind sharing it with a friend, it always means so much when you can share this podcast with a friend and we can continue to grow the show together. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.